Tropical storm Idalia, or Idalia, not sure how to pronounce it, has formed in the Gulf of Mexico. It formed a couple of days ago, and is currently nearing the extreme western portions of Cuba. Yucatan Peninsula is currently in the clear, as it seems, and it is 60 knots, very strong tropical cyclone. At the 8 p.m. update today, it's currently 7:20 Eastern. The 8 p.m. Eastern update, I would not be surprised if this becomes into a hurricane, because it will start rapidly intensifying today night. Currently, there are many areas of convection, very deep convection, some areas of cloud tops below -80 Celsius. Seems like this main blob is weakening, but definitely as nightfall comes with the TC diurnal cycle, we'll have that increase in convection that always happens with all tropical cyclones as night comes. And that will definitely aid in the strengthening of the system. Currently, if we look at the visible satellite, we can see there's no really well-defined center, just a bunch of blobs of convection on the eastern and southern sides. But if you look at the upper level outflow with the cirrus clouds and lower level rotation, you can notice some rotation over here. And if you watch very closely this way, and even a little that way, you can see some upper level, very, very nice upper level outflow. So that's showing our lower level convergence is very strong. The upper level divergence not as strong. So clearly this is still a strengthening cyclone. Now let's move on to the track. So we have a pretty good idea of where there's going to make landfall. Should make landfall in somewhere in between Cedar Key and Alligator Point in Florida, the Big Bend of Florida, this area here, for those of you who don't know. There is still some chance for it to go even further west towards Apalachicola, but that's probably going to go anywhere in this area. Tampa should be in the clear, but again, there's going to still be a lot of impacts from the cyclone. Actually, I'll word that differently. Tampa will not be in the path of landfall, but it will definitely get affected by the system quite a bit. So moving on to the tracks, and more importantly, I'd say right now is intensity. We are not sure how intense this is going to get, but we look at the path. We have hurricane warnings up for Cuba, which I would say is appropriate because it should become a hurricane any moment now. Honestly, the Air Force, I'm not sure. I think they finished their mission, or they might still be in there. But 8 p.m. update, I would not be surprised if this becomes a hurricane. Hurricane warnings are also up for all the Big Bend of Florida down towards Tampa. Evacuations are probably underway. This is forecast to be a major hurricane, Cat 3 at landfall. If we look at the intensity, it is forecast to be 120 mile an hour Cat 3 at landfall. Now, there are a couple things that may happen with this. So if you look within 36 hours, this is forecast to strengthen 45 knots, which that is some very, very strong rapid intensification. And why is this happening? I'll show you right now. So look at the deep layer shear. It is going to generally reduce into landfall. It's already very low. The 200 to 850 millibar wind shear is very, very low. Less than 20 knots, around 15 knots, I'd say, in the intensification time. Sea surface temperatures are going to be on the rise. I'll show you the sea surface temperatures actually right now. In excess of 30 Celsius all across the eastern Gulf. Where this storm is moving, the storm's over here. It's moving this way. Very, very warm waters, nearly record warm waters of this for any year, basically. This really, really hot. I can actually show you the anomalies. And it is just ridiculous how hot they are this year. It is too much. Here in the North Atlantic. Yeah, sea surface temperature now is easily over 1, 2, even potentially 3 degrees Fahrenheit in some areas. Okay, let's move on to looking at what is going to happen to this storm. So look at this. The NHC is predicting a 30 knot change in winds from 0 to 24 hours, 30 knot change in 12 to 36 hour winds. So this is a 99th percentile, 99.5 percentile actually for the 12 to 36 hours. What does this mean? This means that this is really going to rapidly intensify. The NHC has some very, very rapid intensification in forecast. And again, this is due to the high sea surface temperatures, relatively low shear, high ocean heat content. And Yeah, so again, I already showed you this. All right, let's look at currently its organization. We can see this is the radar from area far western area of Cuba. We can see most of the convection is and the precipitation is still displaced to the east, but this should start to organize. If you look over here, it's starting to organize into more of a well-defined center. It already does have a well-defined center, but basically like an easily identificable center. All right, so let's move on over here to looking at the models. So Idalia, okay. So let's not get ahead of ourselves here. Let's go back to analysis right now. So we have wind 60 knots. Again, as I was saying, everything's really displaced to the east currently, nearing Cuba. Probably won't make landfall, but will definitely make a very close brush with Cuba. And as soon as it gets past Cuba, it is in the clear. Very, very high sea surface temperatures. Look at that. Okay, what does it go from here? 54 knots. Okay, 54 knots at 12 hours to 117. In how many more hours is that? That is 21 hours. Less than 24 hours, it intensifies over 50 knots. It intensifies how much? Around 60, 70 knots. Less than 24 hours. Um, it's going to be some really rapid intensification. As it nears landfall, this is the 18Z HRRR. It could be 100 knot storm easily. It easily should be a 100 knot storm. Let's go back to that NHC forecast actually. Actually bouncing all over the place. I should just get this done with real quick. Yeah, so 105 knots is what is forecasted landfall. Towards landfall, what one thing that may be happening is maybe weakening. So it won't be weakening. It won't be getting stronger as it approaches like when it's very close to landfall, because the ocean heat content won't be as high. Where did I leave the here? No, here we go. Ocean heat content. So let's look at that. So in the next 24 hours, the ocean heat content is going to be very, very high. The ocean heat content is kind of a measure of sea surface temperature, but kind of distributed over the layers of the ocean, like to a little depth. So it gives you a better idea of how deep that warmth is. So it is going to be decreasing after 24 hours, even though the sea surface temperature is increasing. That's why I wouldn't say it wouldn't be able to intensify as much. But these storms defy expectations quite astonishingly at an astonishing pace. These things defy expectations all the time. They intensify more than forecast. So we have to keep our eyes out for this one. HWRF, 117 knot storm at one point. Landfall, it's predicting 100 knot storm, 105 knot storm, which is um, in line with the Hurricane Center's forecast. HMON, same thing, around 100 knot storm. But this one's actually much further west, actually. So remember, Apalachicola, that area has to be more and up, has to be alert too. Huff's a 100 knot storm. So this isn't looking very good for Florida because this Big Bend, not just the wind, the storm surge is going to be really, really bad because look at how the coastline is oriented. It's kind of oriented this way, and the wind is going to be pushing into that. And a lot of these areas, the wind is just going to be going straight into the coastline. You're going to bring a lot of storm surge. Storm surge is forecast to be up to 12 feet across that entire area of the Big Bend. All right, so let's wrap this up with how intense this thing could possibly get. So we look at the RIPA intensification guidance from the RAM TC division, and if we look at the probability for 35 knots in 20 hours, it is 29%. 25 knots, 24 hours, 39%. And 45 knots, 36 hours, 29%, 30%. So 45 knot increase would be a 105 knot storm in 36 hours, which is what the NHC is calling for. And even 55 knots is a 20% chance. So we have to keep our 55 knots in 48 hours. So we have to keep our eyes out for any potential strong intensification because there's going to be some really warm ocean ahead of this. I cannot stress enough. If we look at these intensification probabilities before landfall, it is definitely going to be intensifying. The most important time I would say right now is today night. Today night, how intense this thing can get is going to pretty much be a baseline guidance for how much this stuff is defying expectations. Because remember, as I said, we're gonna have that burst of convection that comes with nightfall, and after this gets past Cuba, this is in the clear. This is gonna be moving over some very, very warm waters. Tomorrow, we're gonna have a better idea of how intense this could be. Probably the area of landfall will also be narrowed down. But until then, pay attention to all of your official warnings. If you are in the path of this hurricane, make sure you pay attention to the forecast. Make sure you evacuate if you are told to. And again, do not take this discussion that I've given as any official guidance. Always seek guidance from your officials, local officials, and the National Hurricane Center, which again, as if you don't know, their website is nhc.noaa.gov or hurricanes.gov.